do we see in the zikr? And we part of our seeing, when Rumi wants us to understand this, he's very, because since we see things, the question is, are we seeing with these eyes? No, because the eyes are closed. That's what we're seeing with this eye. And so he says, Dar gudaz in jumlatan ro dar basar, dar nazar ro, dar nazar ro, dar nazar. So he says, dissolve your body, all of your body. Dar gudaz in jumlatan ro, dar basar, in the seeing of the basirat. So, and then that way you're going in the way of vision, true vision. So it has many levels. So sometimes it is, as long as we are seeing from the heart, then all of it will be of some use to us, will be practical for us. And so the seeing of the eyes, as he said, as I quoted to you last time from Rumi, he's saying these eyes, they are receiving their vision from these eyes of the heart, you see. And he says the eye of the heart is receiving its vision from the seeing of the divine. So when we go into the zikr, we can see that we're just being patient. Because if you're going to dissolve yourself, let's say that your thoughts, you have thoughts.
I become dissolved with it.
Yeah, that's very good, because then you're seeing, but when we are doing zikr, very often, let me speak for myself, I am seeing lots of different things. And they are like, let's say some of them, they're like very soft, some of them are harder, more durable. So in a way, what he's saying is very interesting, is that you're dissolving the activity of the mind that's involved with nafs. Then, when this happens, we start to see things inside, don't we, in the zikr. And again, sometimes they are, you could say all of them are worth taking note of. But what he really wants is that the process of the opening of the heart and the seeing of the heart. See, what is when he says seeing, he means the expansion of awareness, that one is aware, and that awareness allows us to realize that there's a greater seeing. See, so that's one reason when I'm doing zikr myself, or when I'm doing it in this circle, I'm waiting, frankly, I'm waiting for my own dissolution, okay? It says dissolve, so I'm waiting for this. Then I'm waiting to see how it feels where I am, with other people and so forth. And that's why I have explained to you that if you have a healthy circle, healthy means that there's enough truth, there's enough real discipline and real aspiration, something we aspire to, that it prevails. It prevails over the shadows. See? So there's light and shadows. And the zikr is what takes us towards the light. Agreed? So whatever we see, we take note of that, and we take note of it, but at the same time, we say, thank you, Allah, thank you for this vision. And then we try to understand. It's like we are given an ayah, basically. See, we have a lot of, they are in cement, in stone. We have many ideas. They're stuck, you see. So some of them could be very negative, like I am not good enough, or this person's not good enough, or something. It could be very negative. And some of them, they are very therapeutic. They open us up. And they are not fixed in stone. They're something new. They're a revelation to us, you could say. They're coming to us as a sign. So when we see that, we observe that and we say, what does this mean? Like when you describe the not only the earth, but the grass or something coming up from, this is the self is also an earth, isn't it? So you could say, each person, in fact, is one dunya. And we often say that, oh, this person, each person, in a sense, is a world of their own. So just the main thing in zikr, we observe, and we have the attitude. I have the attitude of thank you, Allah, for this ayah, for this sign. Thank you for the ability to move from the shadows in the mind to the heart. See, thank you for opening my heart, you see. Rabbi ashrah li sadri, you see. Moses says, oh Lord, open my heart, you see. So when we have these things, we are looking for freedom, for liberation. And you may recall, Rumi is talking about in his ladder, we call it Nardaban, that he's talking about. He's saying that you will know because you will experience vastness. And vastness is vision. So my vision is very small. My vision is in a dark room, And God can bring me out of this situation. وَالَّذِي يُصَلِّي عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ لِيُخْرِجَكُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. You know this verse. So the God is the one who brings blessings and greetings, and all of the angels are joining him. When one is in a position for that, like in the zikr, to pull you out of the darkness into the light. You see? وَقَنَا بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. And for those people who do that, they experience the mercy, the rahima, okay? So we can, it's good actually if you can reference Quran to what you're experiencing. So one advantage to reading Quran is that you see not just all of the things that happened historically in the time of Muhammad, peace be upon him, but you actually see the guidance. You see the guidance and so when I am doing zikr, the ayah maybe will come to me actually. So I will have an experience and then the ayah will appear after that's about that, you see. It doesn't have to work that way. You can just say, what is the ayah that, like, sanurihim ayatina fi afaqi wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahum annahu al-haq. So this one is, God is saying, you have ayahs, you are seeing things outside of yourself and inside of yourself. And this is really a way that he's teaching us. So in the zikr, we have much of my life. I chose to live in the forest because it's calm, and it's very like a nest. Huh? It's a very safe place. When I've lived in cities, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of when we think about naps. Okay, so we think about naps, and then think about music for a second, and think about the music of naps, which we hear. Don't we hear it all the time? It's all around us. You see, so it's like very. It is part of God's world, but it is distracting. You see, distracting. And so when I think about naps in terms of personally, I'm always remembering this idea of that He has made us into the creature. The Insan is an Insan able to forget easily. And Nación, the Insan. And then the other side, as you know, is love. Huh? Uns is proximity and closeness to God. Yeah, intimacy, we say. So when there are constantly signs, like there are signs out here, people getting shot, people helping other people, people going to work, people going to church, people going to prayer, whatever. But there's many things going on, and all of these are in the world and inside of us. You see. So when we see these things, we observe them. But what we're waiting for is the eye of the heart. We're waiting for. Earlier there was a question about constancy. Judith asking a question means to be constant. Paul Band. Right? But he is always Paul Band. And we are the ones who are not really Paul Band, right? So the advantage of choosing a discipline, like choosing that every day I will do some zikr, I will do prayers and so forth, is that it starts to clear some space so that we have a space where we more quickly come back to. We come back to the eye, the feeling. Remember, the eye of the heart is not. It has no place. It's completely. The vision of God is everywhere, all the time. You see. So when this happens to us, it doesn't belong to us. Like Rumi said, it actually just means that we are participating in it. So either I'm participating in his seeing, his, really, you could also say his Rahman, meaning his creation, his revealing himself as either the merciful or the one who leads astray. Isn't that true? There's no one who has not led astray. Wasn't Adam led astray? Yeah. With a purpose, though, yeah? Yeah. So I don't know about you. I'm not sure how many times a day I'm led astray. There are too many, you see what I'm trying to say? So if my mind is led astray very easily, I should have a separate place that is very protected, that is not led astray. And when I cultivate that, then I have a protection, you see? And then this protection, if I sit, it expands, because this is why we choose in zikr. Isn't it true? We could do zikr while we're driving, but it's not as effective, right? It's very effective if we sit. Very effective if we're in a group, like Ustad said, make a Hanukkah and come and join in the Hanukkah, because he knows that this is also about energy. So it's about we call awareness, we call vision, okay? Awareness. and also energy and verification. Yes, there really is spirit, you see, verification. So one thing would be belief. So Ustad said, yeah, in the Quran people can believe, they can learn to believe this, they can believe the scripture, yeah? But he wants us to do zikr so that we experience that. Isn't that true? That's why sometimes he would say critically about something, he would say, "Chizi nadorat," meaning, he doesn't mean the person has nothing, he means they don't have dhawq. He distinguish, Ustad distinguishes between theory and dhawq, agreed? And dhawq means tasting, means experiencing it. So, I am happy to be an ordinary human being. I'm happy to accept the mercy. I'm happy that the mercy accepts that I come on and off of the reality, like all human beings, you see? But the Sufi and other spiritual people, they are finding a panah, a refuge, and they could be distracted, but they can always come back to this refuge. So when we see these things, when I am seeing these kind of visions, I'm just remembering them. Like, what is it? What did I see? See? So, وَفِي الْأَرْضِ آيَةٌ لِلْمُقِنِينَ وَفِي أَنفُسَكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. See, so there are signs, outside for those who are certain, they are verifying. They are verifying it, and also inside of you. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Will you not see this? You see, the Quran is a lot of it about seeing, meaning not just for the eyes, but seeing from the awareness. The seeing means awareness. So I was aware that when I felt possessive, so say I felt possessive, I was a devil, right? And if I let it go, then I'm not a devil. Agreed? So, okay. It's good?
Yes. Also, a child was talking, and I heard someone say, wanted to answer the child.
They wanted what?
A child was talking, and I didn't know what was that.
Oh, yeah.
And the other person was there, Aziza Dilan. So listen, I will tell you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't happen before, but I don't know. Something.
Well, these are the zikr is watching the emergence of all the things that are inside, and some of them, they are to remind us of difficulties that we're having. Some of them, they are showing us the way to. You see, the thing is, after the zikr, like right now, you check yourself, and you realize either your awareness is very strong, or it's just ordinary. Now remember, I will speak for myself. Let's say I become angry or closed or something. I'm unconscious of the presence to some extent, maybe completely, maybe to some extent. But the zikr, you can easily check it yourself. Afterwards, you will check who is doing the zikr. The zikr is not, it doesn't need the words. It needs the awareness. So if after, by by midday today, by noon today, by 2 o'clock today. You keep checking, where is the zikr, you see? So if he is doing the zikr, then it means that it's not because of me. I know I am imperfect. It cannot be because of me. It can only be because the divinity has decided to rest, to be a guest, as Rumi says, which should be the opposite. I'm the one who's the guest, but Rumi says the divinity will become a guest in your heart, you see. So,
thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else have a question? Please feel free to. It's been a month since we talked, huh? So feel free if you have some question. Yes.
I had a question. Would like to learn more about the story of Prophet Abraham and how he likes to intercede for Qawm Lut, and how God wanted to maybe, or planned on destroying them, but Prophet Abraham wanted to intercede for them.
Yeah, so it's very famous. First of all, if we're Muslim or Christian or Jews, we recognize Abraham. Agreed? And the thing about Abraham is that he really brings the character of the surrenderer, whether in the time of Judaism and then Christianity and in the time of Islam. We find out that Abraham has a very, very big role, okay, very big position. And so he is a model for us, agreed? He would be a model. And so in this example of his guidance for human beings, his family are not monotheistic, are they? His family has all of these idols, and I think he also has a sense of humor, because when they go away, he breaks all of the idols except for one. And they come back, and they say, "Oh my God, who did this to these?" And Abraham was the only one who was there. He says, "He did it. He did it." So he must have a sense of humor, don't you think? Because they say, "What? That's impossible that he would have done it. He's just a stone idol." He says, "Yes, that's right. He's just a stone idol." So, in a way, if you compare him to Noah, see, I was saying how Noah was kind of severe, actually, and not, he hadn't worked on presentation skills and so forth and so on, and he was, and he had a very real position. So the position is either, like you could say, like one could imagine a Noah of the future who it brings with them the end of the world. Yeah, so you have Noah's bringing kind of the end of the world. It's going to all be flooding and everything. But Abraham has a very different position. He has a family that he has thought about this already, because he sees, he believes strongly that there's some greater intelligence, some greater God. He believes strongly in that. But he sees that these idols, they are not actually very attractive even for him. When he sees the stars and he says, "Oh, that's really beautiful. I will worship them, because aren't they beautiful?" And I told you in Quran, there's even a verse where God described himself. He says, I am the Lord of the star Sirius. So God himself says in Quran, I am the Lord of this star. So if he's the Lord of the star, it's a worthy thing, but it's not the same thing as God, is it? But Abraham says he worshiped the stars. And until he saw their setting, it means metaphorically. Obviously, what he means is anything that fades and is not permanent. So just first of all, as a background, he is a huge figure, a very important figure, because he brings from the time of let's call it of not really understanding that there could be a transcendental, singular God that has qualities, but who is above all of the qualities, who is transcendental, who is who has love for what he has created. Okay, so we know this from any of the scriptures. And I won't go into all the proofs of that, but there are very many proofs in Quran for that. So now what we have is the question of how he behaved. So you may know that, didn't he feel sad for his father and his family? And he prayed for them. And God, in one verse, says, oh, Abraham, he's so gentle. So he's called Halim also, isn't he? But in another verse, God says, I don't care if you forgive him. I will not forgive his father, you see? So when you look at Abraham in the context of his father, this is one example. But the question you're asking about is the Qawm Lut. What happens is that the angels, they go and they visit Abraham. And he's an old man at this time. And the first thing is Abraham, when he sees them, he's scared. Are you aware of the Quranic? So he's scared because he doesn't know why they came to his house. So it shows you that very often when there's a destruction, it is understood that God has sent some angels, meaning some celestial beings that are under his power. And when they come there, they see that he is scared and they say, relax, we have come to bring you good news. What's the good news? That he's an old man, but he will have a child, you see. So then he relaxes with them, and then they say, don't worry, we are not going to harm you. We're going to the Qawm Lut, to the people of Lot, you see. And so when he goes there, when they start to talk, he says, there's a verse in Quran where it says, Yujadilu linna fi Qawm Lut. Okay, so it means, and he argued with us about the fact that we are sending destruction to them, you see. Now, if you know Quran and you look at Jadal, then you know that usually the person gets zapped, so to speak, meaning you know that it's a critical thing. If somebody is arguing, some commentators say he's talking to the angels and he's saying this to them, but most of the commentators say no, it's God who is sending them. So when he says yujadilu linna, because God often says in the plural, us, he's arguing with us concerning the Qawm Lut. The answer is usually, if you are doing this, you see it's people who are destroyed in Quran. But in this instance, he says the following line. God says, Inna Ibrahima lahalimun awahun munib. So he's you could say praising Abraham. So if you take that in the context of Abraham being the guide, and if you take that, the progressive Islam sees God's response as meaning that, at the very least, it's not for a person to judge, or secondly, it's for a person to show great mercy. You see? So in today's context, because they're talking here about homosexuality, and where there's no verdict in the Quran with regard to women, there is verdict in this story of the tribe of Lot in all of the religions. You see, all of those religions. So in this one, what is given to people is an understanding that Abraham, whether they were sinning or not, was not his position. His position was, whatever they have done, forgive them. You see what I'm trying to say? So for this reason, in progressive Islam, they view this in this manner. Is it clear? Mm. So if you go read the different citations, you will see they are in the Quran. They are basically repetitions from the time of the Jewish scripture. The Christian scripture doesn't address them at all, meaning the Injil. It's in the Bible, but in we call the Old Testament. So what I'm trying to say is there's a hiatus, there's a lapse. And are you aware that the Injil, the Gospel, are mentioned in the Quran? Quite a lot, you see. So they're accepted as a revelation, you could say. In fact, as you know, there are several books of the Gospel. But the thing is that, so you have from Judaism to Christianity. In Christianity, what we call the New Testament, which is the statements of Jesus in the Injil, they don't address this at all. So in that version, you have a great deal of criticism that Jesus makes against the people who are cruel, or the people who don't believe in God, or the people who steal or lie and so forth. But he doesn't address this at all. So now we come to the Quran, where it picks up again where the Jewish scripture has left off. And the statements made are virtually identical to those statements in the Jewish scripture. But what's different in the Quran is this one statement that I quoted to you about he cannot help it. Abraham cannot help it, because when God says lahalimun awahum munib, it means he is halim is gentle and sweet. You see, awahun meaning constantly turning to God in love, in loving, like you see, like in sighing and loving God. Munib, constantly turning to God. So rather than reprimanding, the thing I'm trying to point out with regard to his father, if you look in Quran, there's one place where a similar thing happens and God says nothing. Another place in Quran, Abraham is described as seeking forgiveness for his father, and God says, I don't care. You can forgive him. I will not forgive him. You see? So you have to, when you look at Quran, you have to, people should read the Quran themselves. They should read it, read it, read it, read it, read it. Forget sermons, read the Quran. If you read it every day, you will get through it, then you read it again, you read it again, you read it again, and you will see so many interesting things, you see. And one of them about Abraham should be the guide, right? He's the guide. So at the very least you have this mercy. Okay? Very good. Yeah? Anyone else? Please, if you have a question. Yes, Faisal, you have something. It's hard for me, I see you once in a while.
A few meetings ago, you said something that just has been stuck in my mind and just constantly comes up. You said the identity of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
If you can talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so what I said earlier about Rumi's talking about Dargudos in Jumlatan da Basar, dissolve all of your physical body, right? So in other words, there's obviously transitioning. We are an unusual creature, and God makes that clear in all of the scriptures. First of all, we are the Imago Dei, we are the reflection of the divine names. Huh? We cannot be the reflection of the divinity, of the transcendental divinity. And so, this verse that I quoted earlier from Rumi is very valuable, I think, even for your question, because he's saying in other places, like I've told you, his munajat, where he's talking about what does it look like when you arrive at this place where you realize that all of the awareness belonged to one divine being. See, that's the identity of the awareness. The awareness is imagine light expanding forever and never being without itself. However, in the case of the divine names, now we come to the idea of wujud. Okay, so we had shuhud, because you're saying awareness, right? And then wujud, which in the Quran would normally actually be represented by the idea of hay and hayat, right, of life. But even there, it has a more ancient idea, the idea that something can be found. Isn't that true? So that's why Abdul Ansari talks about it in that way. So you see so many, it's a verb, and that's another reason to read the Quran. You see how many times this root, vajada, is used, and how ordinary it can be with regard to the context, like so-and-so found this, so-and-so didn't find this, etc. So that's another reason to read the Quran, is study the verbal forms of words that are important to us. And so it is reasonable that if something cannot be found, it doesn't exist, agreed? If it can be found, it has existence. So there's no conflict really with the idea of existence and finding, but again, just to make clear the Quranic context. And therefore, when we think about this notion of the divine and how we can understand it, unless we're just going to be making up philosophy, we should have some direct experience. And some people are right when they make up the philosophy, some people are copying the philosophy from other people, but as you know, Rumi recommends kind of being careful about philosophy, huh? Doesn't he say that most of the people in heaven, they are simpletons, they're not interested in philosophy? He says because they're trying to avoid the, let's call it, he calls it the evil, right? The evil of philosophical speculation. So, therefore, we have only one possible way to understand, and that is to surrender. So if it was Islam as a whole, you would say, well, I surrender. But here we're talking about different surrender. We're talking, zikr, the real essence of zikr is I am surrendering. And I'm trying to relax enough and to let go of all my interest. Like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? I really want to see an angel. Oh, I really want to heal my friend. You see, these are all like very limited goals. So if in the zikr we completely, as he say, dissolve, because doesn't he say jumlatandra, the whole body, meaning all of the aspects of the body, the outer eyes, isn't that right? So this idea is a very important one, and that's why in the past I have quoted to you the idea that, again, from Rumi, where he says, he says, Pambai on gushe sir gushe sarast, ta nagardad in kar on boten karast, beheso be gusho be fikrat shavit, ta khitab be urja'i ra beshnavit. Do you remember this? So let's see again, for translating it, the cotton that is blocking the true essential hearing, the hidden hearing, the spiritual hearing, is your own ear. So imagine, you see, isn't that funny? Pambayan Gushisir Gushisaras. So suddenly Gushisa becomes Pamba, doesn't it? Becomes cotton. So he says the cotton that's plugging your ear is your own ear. Tonagardad in kar on boten karas. Until this one, unless it becomes sealed, the other one will be sealed, will be unable to hear, you see? So you can only have one or the other one. In other words, if you were really trying to, this is a very good example of what we're talking about now, that if we were trying to explore this, we have to accept paradox, like it's not possible. Of course, it's not possible in philosophy, in thinking, in ordinary experience. It's not possible. So the only thing possible is to accept from a teacher like Rumi the paradox, and to let it be, to let it happen. And so when he says become without, beheso begusho befekrat shavid, tohito be urjairo beshnavit. He's now saying to you, here's how you can do this. So become without your normal senses. You become without this ear with which you think you're going to hear. See, that's the problem about the fish and the wise fish, is the wise fish is trying to get the other fish to relax, actually. And to not be so frightened and so possessive and so personally involved. And here Rumi's doing the same thing. He's saying, if you become without these normal senses, you will become without this hearing and this ear that is external, and without thinking, fikrat. Until you hear urjairo. What's urjairo? Yeah, so it's about the nafs mutmainna. So now we have an interesting thing. Rumi is essentially saying, is if you could find your way into the domain called nafs mutmainna, then you are qualified to understand. Agreed? Because he can only mean that, agreed? He can only mean that until you hear this, because this is what God says to the nafs mutmainna. Right? And he also says, enter in among my servants and enter into my paradise, you see? So that's why Rumi, and isn't it true that, again, to add to that, so the idea of khata, of faults, okay? It's better to really understand and accept one's fault. It's better to understand so that way, when he says, "Sabiqu ila maghfiratin min rabbikum wa jannatin arzuha ka arzi samai wal ard wa jannatin." You see, so in other words, whoever is. It's a beautiful image because sabiqu in this case, the use of the verb, is best translated as has been translated by very many of the translators, the idea of rushing or racing towards, or as if you know your only salvation, really. Sabiqu illa maghfiratin min rabbikum wa jannatun arzuha ka arzi samai wal ard. The vast paradise that you will find if you do this, you see. So again, in this instance, when I'm doing the zikr, I only see fault. See, if you were looking at the mirror that you're supposed to polish, well, what do you think you're going to see? Something real? No, you're going to be seeing your faults and so forth. Agreed? So you're just in the psychology of this is to understand not fault like as in you're less than something, but more a lack of capacity. That's all they mean. That's the fault. Is the mutma'inna has escaped from nafs amara bisu. It has used nafs lawama, right? So the transition there. Isn't this what he's talking? Isn't nafs lawama? Isn't the verse I just told you? Sabiqu ila maghfiratin. Isn't that for nafs lawama? So you can right away say, oh, in the class of Orjei Ilorabiki, I will go to the verses that are about nafs lawama. Nafs lawama means the self examining and self criticizing. You see, so excuse me for not mentioning this to you, those of you who don't know this language. So he says, race towards the forgiving mercy. Race towards the forgiveness of the mercy. Maghfiratun. Min rabbikum, from your Lord. And the verb stays the same verb, but jannatan, meaning you're racing towards the paradise, he's saying. Because look at the grammar, you'll see. It doesn't change. The verb has not changed. There's two nouns, but the verb has not changed. Race towards the merciful forgiveness, you see, of your Lord. And, same verb, and to the paradise whose extent and vastness is that of the heaven and the earth, of the sky and the earth, you see, which means in any individual. So that one I could have used also for Zabeha to talk about this idea when you're actually experiencing these things. So this is very beautiful, very important, and the everything about me is limited, problematical. However, what was given to me was a heart and a mirror. And if I were to polish that, I do not become God. I become a place where God experiences his own divine names, the beautiful names, you see. So that's why I was quoting to you not long ago that the verses that I like in Quran, so many of them, they're about seeing. And one of them that I told you a couple of times recently, where he says in Quran, he says, with regard to blindness, he says, La ta'amma al-absaru, walakin ta'amma al-qulubu elati fi sudur. So he says, there is no blindness in this eye for what you see in the world. That's why you believe that you see. Agree? Meaning that, in parentheses, that's why you believe that you see, because you think because you have eyes that you are seeing. He says there's no problem there. You have eyes, you are seeing things, unless you are actually blind in this world, huh? Meaning as a blind person. But most people, they have vision. He says, but there is blindness in the seeing of the heart that is inside the sadr. So this is a very important verse because we understand the relationship now. So we understand that in the sadr is the heart that is blind, that is blinded.